Ric Flair once revealed that Hulk Hogan refused to wrestle one man because he thought he was too dangerous. Not Andre the Giant, not Vader, that man was Rick Rude. So why did Hogan refuse to wrestle the Ravishing One? Well, according to Flair, it's because Rude allegedly knocked out the Ultimate Warrior in a real backstage fight. But here's the twist. For years, fans swore the backstage fight that Flair was talking about never happened. There was no record of it, no evidence, no documentation. But after digging through the archives, I've uncovered something that's been missed until now. And what I found might finally connect the dots. Before we hear what Flair had to say, let's unravel the clues that make this story so explosive. Because once you see how the pieces fit together, you'll never look at Hulk Hogan and Rick Rude the same way again. This is the strange but true story of how one punch may have changed wrestling history forever. So let's begin by looking at exactly what Ric Flair had to say. The Nature Boy once told a story of a backstage altercation where the Ultimate Warrior insulted Rick Rude. Rude stood up, crossed the room, and with one punch is alleged to have dropped the Warrior cold. According to the Nature Boy, it was this incident that made Hulk Hogan avoid Rick Rude for his whole career.
He wouldn't work with Rick. Rude had beat up the Warriors bad in the locker room, and that just kind of sent a message, but he would not wrestle Rick. Hulk and Rude have never worked in the ring, which is strange. I mean, he just refused to do it.
What you just heard was Ric Flair's version of events, as told to him by others. But as has been pointed out by multiple knowledgeable wrestling fans on this channel, Rude has crossed paths with Hogan before, but those matches, which you can count on one hand, largely consisted of house shows. House shows that were suddenly dropped with no explanation. And that's the mystery. In an era where virtually every major heel, Andre, DiBiase, Savage, Earthquake, got a big money feud with Hogan, Rude never did. And after 1988, their paths never crossed again in a singles match. Ric Flair even said Hogan called Rude the Tasmanian Devil.
He called Rick the Tasmanian Devil. He wouldn't work with Rick.
But while Hogan may have seen Rude as a liability, in the ring, the Ravishing One was proving he was unstoppable. As well as going around the horn with the Warrior and handing him some of the best matches of his career, Rude stole the show, even beating him for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 5. So why was a big money feud with Hulk Hogan blocked? Well, in a moment, we'll hear what the Hulkster had to say about Rick Rude. And you're going to want to stick around for that, brother, because he does not hold back. But first of all, let's go back to this locker room altercation and piece together what really happened with the Ultimate Warrior.
I'm sure that there were days when Rude wanted to put his fist to a wall because of the lack of in-ring ability that his opponent had.
By the early 1990s, the story of Rick Rude flooring Ultimate Warrior was locker room legend. Demolition Smash, who worked with Warrior on many occasions in the 90s, recalls the incident as follows. Warrior nailed Rude a few times in the ring before Rude, quote-unquote, straightened him out in the locker room. Even Rick Rude's son has spoken about the incident.
The Warrior was backstage kind of talking smack about my father before he got to the arena. And my father came into the arena and almost ended the Warrior's career backstage.
Rude's son said it flat out. His dad nearly ended the Ultimate Warrior's career. This wasn't just locker room gossip. It was the kind of fight that had real consequences.
And Vince almost fired my father over this.
And if Vince was ready to fire Rude over it, you know how serious it must have been. But where did it happen and when? If we can pinpoint that, it could be the proof needed that this story wasn't just rumour. Here is where it gets interesting.
Rude had beat up the Warrior in Savannah.
The Nature Boy has always maintained that the backstage fight happened in Savannah, Georgia. For years, fans have doubted that fact. There was no record of any event in the late 80s in Savannah that saw Rude and Warrior on the same card. There was a challenge event in '91, but by that point, Rude had already left the organisation. Many have claimed that WWF never even ran Savannah. So with the passage of time and fading memories, the story's been written off as nothing more than an urban legend. Until now. Because I found the show. On August the 24th, 1990, the WWF definitely ran a show at the Savannah Civic Centre. And despite not appearing online in the usual places, this is something that's been confirmed by the Civic Centre themselves. While we don't know who was on the Savannah card, we can look to the following event for some clues. The very next night, the WWF rolled into Charleston, South Carolina, just 108 miles up the road. Given this was the B-show circuit, the personnel would have been the same as the night before. The main event for that show: Ultimate Warrior and Texas Tornado versus Mr. Perfect and Ravishing Ric Rude. So we've identified an event that appears to support Ric Flair's story, and while it might not be a smoking gun, it does put Rude and Warrior in the same place. And if there was a backstage altercation, it might explain why Hulk Hogan wanted nothing to do with Ric Rude. Next up, we'll hear from the Hulkster himself. But first, we need to understand why his words matter. Because if Hogan pulled the plug on a rising, ravishing one, that's not just politics. That's a ruthless power play. According to wrestler accounts, over the years it's been said that Hogan thought Rude was too stiff, too dangerous, or too small to draw. We may get an insight into Hogan's true thoughts from this promo in 1988.
You see that right there, brother? That's Ric Rude, man. That's Ric Rude right there. If you go back to 1987, when I slammed 565 pounds and beat Andre the Giant, that's what you look like, Ric Rude. When you look back and see how I fought King Kong Bundy tooth and nail, that's you right there, Ric Rude. Not that you're a threat, brother. Not that you're not a worthy #1 contender. But I'm used to jumping on top of mountains, man. And if by some chance, Ric Rude, you forget to wear those long, skinny pantyhose to the ring, I want to show him that this 24-inch python, the largest arm in the world, is as big as his leg.
That promo told the whole story. Instead of giving Rude the rub, Hulk Hogan cut him down to size. So the question becomes, was this just in-character bravado for the cameras? Or was there some truth to what Hogan was saying? And why wouldn't Rude be next in line for a title shot? He'd already defeated the Warrior. Let that sink in. He pinned WWF's fastest rising star on the grandest stage of them all. This was the guy who beat the man that Hogan would later pass the torch to.
I think Ric Rude taught Jim Hellwig an awful lot in the ring, night in and night out. And I would credit Ric Rude greatly for making Warrior look at least like Warrior was capable of having some athleticism.
Behind the curtain then, it was easy to see why Rude might have been a bit bitter. All the momentum, all that heat, and still the main event spotlight eluded him.
I remember Ric Rude working his butt off and to make the matches very, very good.
By late 1990, just 1 month after headlining SummerSlam, Rude found himself stuck in a mid-card feud with the Big Boss Man. For the Ravishing One, this was the last straw. He quit WWE and headed south to World Championship Wrestling. For more than 3 years in WCW, Rude showed he was every bit the top guy. But then, disaster struck. A career-ending injury in Japan that would cut him down in his prime. It's often said that time is a cruel mistress. Just months after Rude cashed in on his Lloyd's of London insurance policy, Hulk Hogan signed with WCW. For years, Rude had dreamed of a main event showdown with the Hulkster. He'd chased the spotlight. He'd fought to prove himself. And then, when Hogan finally came to his backyard where he was the star, Rude's career was already over. So when the dust finally settled, was Hulk Hogan truly afraid of the man who floored the Warrior? Did one punch in a locker room end a dream feud? Rude wanted Hogan, fans wanted it too, but the Hulkster made sure it never happened. In the years that followed, Hogan praised Rude's ability and his influence on the business, even going as far to say that he didn't get his flowers. But perhaps it's what Hulk didn't say that speaks volumes. Because sometimes the wildest stories in wrestling are the ones that don't make it to the ring. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, give us a subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments.